Good morning. My name is Mel Hartley and I'm one of the team here at the Training Accreditation Council, and I'd like to welcome you to this webinar on the course accreditation process. At this time, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we are meeting on, the Whadjuk people. We wish to acknowledge and respect their continuing culture and the contribution they make to the life of this city and this region. Now I'd like to introduce Cherry Hawke, who is our presenter for today. Thank you, Cherry.
Thank you, and welcome everyone to our webinar. And we encourage you to put any questions that you have as we go through into the chat box, and we'll talk about those at the end of the program. I want to also check that you have the following documents. You should have a copy of this PowerPoint presentation with room to write some notes, the Unit of Competency template, the ACC1 application for accreditation form, an accredited course document template, and a qualification template document, which is an optional document for us. The purpose of our webinar today is to go through the course accreditation process from the very beginning and examine all 6 stages of the process and consider the requirements for each. And this means providing you with examples of good practice and, on occasion, things to avoid. Keep in mind, if you are an RTO registered, not registered with TAC, that the process might be slightly different with your regulator, and it's worth checking that process. But the principles are exactly the same and the standards are exactly the same. There are currently over 50 training packages which specify the knowledge and skills required by industry for individuals to perform effectively in the workplace. And these are expressed in units of competency, which are then packaged into qualifications. Small niche areas of industry sometimes find it difficult to have their requirements highly prioritised, and therefore they suffer delays in having their needs addressed through the training package development process. This is where the course accreditation comes in. The process is a valuable addition to training package development, allowing for these niche industry sectors to develop their own nationally recognised courses. A key benefit of accreditation is speed to market. New and emerging industries can move quickly to develop new skills for the workforce and new technology and new ways of working that demand immediate upskilling. These can be catered for. Eventually, these new competencies may end up in training packages, but there are also some specialist areas that have always been served only by accredited courses. And courses with educational or community outcomes rather than vocational outcomes often fall into this category. Who can have a course accredited? I love this slide. Anyone can apply to have a course accredited. Courses can be proposed by anyone, an individual, an organisation or an RTO, where there is a gap in the market or a training need is identified that is not catered for by an existing course. However, if an RTO applicant is registered with ASQA, it will need to accredit its course through ASQA. Only TAC-registered RTOs and non-RTOs, such as organisations and individuals, are able to have a course accredited through TAC. The proposed course may be designed to meet niche industry needs, particular client needs, changes in industry technology or processes, or regulatory requirements. Why would you have a course accredited? Usually it's to meet an industry, enterprise, or community need. There's a gap in current training, to provide national recognition for students undertaking the course. Sometimes industry requires all of its training to be nationally recognised. For RTO-only delivery, and this is often a quality assurance issue, and sometimes as an investment by the course owner. Accreditation offers the opportunity to have nationally recognised units of competency for niche training that cannot be provided through a legitimate arrangement of training package units that already exist. So this next slide are the 6 stages of course accreditation, and we'll work through in detail all 6 stages of course accreditation with TAC as provided on this slide. This will provide a brief overview of the topics of each stage to be covered in the session. Stage 1 then, research and consultation. The first step is to identify the need for the course. Not all courses need to be nationally recognised, so as a course developer you must first identify if having the course nationally recognised is important to your industry stakeholders. Otherwise you can just deliver it privately as non-accredited training, and there are many examples of this occurring, for example Microsoft and other vendor training in the IT industry. Your course must meet a training need that cannot be met by current training product. You must be able to prove that the course outcomes cannot be achieved under existing training package qualification rules. And if a later version of a training package addresses the same need, your course would not be re-accredited. You are required to identify and involve key stakeholders to verify the need for a new accredited course. Stakeholders might include enterprise or industry clients, such as employers, industry organisations, industry regulators, the new jobs and skills councils, WA training councils, group training organisations and unions. Your research and consultation will identify the intended course outcomes, which may be vocational, educational, regulatory or community outcomes. It will also identify the job roles, work functions or specialist skills and knowledge relating to the proposed vocational outcomes. It will identify the competencies the course will cover, the scope and breadth of the course, any statutory, licensing or regulatory requirements, and hopefully future directions such as upcoming changes in technology and skill requirements. You also need to determine the feasibility of your proposed course, whether the course needs to be accredited or there's some other way of fulfilling it. For example, as we've said, the Microsoft courses are still valued by industry even though they're not accredited. The extent of market demand, the potential employment market for graduates of a vocational course. Don't forget to keep a record of the industry support, industry engagement obtained for the course, referencing the type of engagement, if support for the course was provided, and or if industry had input into the development of the course. Record each person's name, title, organisation, and the reason they were selected for involvement. For example, they might be responsible for training and development of their workforce. Okay, what can an accredited course consist of? It can consist of units of competency sourced from one or more training packages. It could consist of units of competency developed for the course where there are no units available in the training package. Modules comprised of learning outcomes only if the course developer can justify to the accrediting body TAC that it's not possible to develop units of competency or a combination of these approaches. If you determine that the course should consist of modules or include some modules, you must obtain permission from the Training Accreditation Council prior to commencing development by completing and submitting an application. Please refer to the TAC website for more information on modules and the application to develop modules under the Course Accreditation Application Forms section on the website. We must ensure there is no duplication of the title or outcomes of an existing course. As an applicant, you must consult with relevant bodies, the JSCs, Jobs and Skills Councils, WA Training Councils, for example, to ensure there is no duplication. You must also search the National Register and keep a record of what's found and whether or not units are applicable, and if not, why not? So let's look at an example of research to avoid duplication. You search the National Register for units that already exist and may be able to be used in your proposed course. You check the detail by reading the full unit, not simply the title. You will need to provide evidence that your course is not covered by an existing qualification through the use of current packaging rules. The accreditation reviewers will review existing training products to determine if this course or the outcomes of the course already exist. Accreditation of a course cannot be granted where it is found that the course or the outcomes of the course already exist in courses, obviously. For example, you might wish to develop a course in trauma counselling. First, you would search training.gov.au for already existing training products that relate to counselling. You can see here, if you can read the tiny screen, I can't read my sheet, but hopefully you can see enough on the screen. You can see there are existing training products that relate to counselling. You can see that there are a number of units on the National Register that all relate to counselling, and you'll need to open and review each of these units to ensure there really is a need for your course and the units you want to create. Let's look more closely at the unit CHC CSL 001, Establish and Confirm the Counselling Relationship, as this is the unit that you may wish to include in your course. You can see from the places where it's listed that it's included in a number of training packages, qualifications, and even in other accredited courses. For example, you can see there is already an accredited course, 11154 NAT, the Advanced Diploma of Aboriginal Specialist Trauma Counselling, that deals with trauma counselling. So let's look a little further into that. So you click on it, it goes through and it shows you the details. There are 12 units listed. There are 2 more on the next page, which we didn't bother to put up, but they're both from the CHC training package. 6 of the units come from training packages, including the one we were talking about, Establish and Confirm the Counselling Relationship, that came up in our original search, and plus 6 new specialist units that have been developed for the course. You will need to look through this course to determine if you would be duplicating what's already there. Unfortunately, there's no further information on TGA about the accredited units, so if you think any of them might address your requirements, you can approach the course owner, whose details will be on the Contact Details tab, which is on this page with the course details. You'll need to go through this process for all courses that deal with counselling to ensure there's no duplication. You will also then need to search for the word trauma and any other words related to the proposed areas of work to be addressed by the course. And having determined that the course is not duplicating an existing course, that there are some TGA units that may be suitable, there may be gaps to be filled by developing new accredited units, and you have industry support, what's next? So you move on to course development. When developing a course, there are a number of aspects to consider. The course must accurately and realistically reflect the needs of industry, enterprises, community, or educational organisations. With regard to the performance and knowledge outcomes, these can be identified through considering industry standards, educational standards, occupational analysis, skills audits, data on emerging technology and industry trends, job functional analysis, job advertisements are sometimes useful, position descriptions and role statements which tell you what people are actually doing in the work, manuals, operating procedures and textbooks, for example, and probably many more. You need to consider the needs of your learners who are most likely to enrol in the course and what job outcomes they may be aiming for. You may need to provide a flexible course structure to suit industry and learner needs. Please avoid artificial barriers to entry or progression, so minimise prerequisites. Consider a core plus an elective structure or a small core, some free electives. And having said that, courses addressing niche markets often have a core-only structure because they're focused very narrowly on a niche area. Every application of the packaging rules must create a course that meets the proposed AQF level of the course. Please keep in mind that any changes needed after the course is accredited will require an amendment application, and this will incur a fee, and more on fees in a later slide. If possible, use a number of TGA units to enable recognition and promote credit transfer across into other courses. Continue to build on your preliminary research and consultation to assist in determining the acceptable modes of delivery for the target group. the demographic of the target group, for example, their age, gender, cultural background, language, educational level, and so on. Your application for accreditation will be reviewed against the AQTF 2021 standards for accredited courses, so it is important to make sure you refer to this document when writing your course. Sections of the standards for training packages are also relevant, and you will automatically meet these if you follow the instructions in the accreditation templates required by TAC. Some common mistakes we find with accredited courses that come in. Probably the most common mistake is when course owners, who are RTOs, write their course document to reflect how they will deliver and assess the course, rather than laying down the rules as a course owner for how it must be delivered by anybody, themselves and other RTOs, even if you intend to be the only RTO delivering your course. So you don't write, our RTO will do something. Instead, you say the RTO must do something when you're writing the rules. Sometimes the structure of the new course or the qualification packaging rules won't allow the vocational outcomes to be met. For example, key requirements have been put into the electives rather than in the core units. Or perhaps it's not flexible enough. You do need to ensure a balance between core and electives to ensure that they lead to realistic outcomes which meet the needs of the industry or enterprise. Consider the possibility of wider application in industry as well. So where possible, try not to focus too narrowly on very specific requirements. Assessment strategies sometimes do not match the course delivery methodologies described. Sometimes they do not support the collection of valid, authentic, current and sufficient evidence. Sometimes there's no validation with industry of the trainer-assessor competency requirements in relation to assessment, no consideration that additional vocational competencies over and above the standards for RTOs 2015 might be required to deliver or assess the qualification. The course you create needs to provide an unambiguous basis for a TAC auditor to evaluate each RTO's readiness to deliver that course, and later the RTO's subsequent valid delivery of the course. So keep in mind the requirements of the standards for RTOs against which delivery and assessment of your course will eventually be assessed or audited. Right, the units of competency. What is it? You'll notice that we now have a brief look at the units of competency, what they are and how they are structured. The standards for accredited courses provide definitions for both competency and for units of competency, which are on the screen. Each unit must describe a specific work or community activity, the conditions under which it is performed, and the evidence needed to determine if someone is competent, i.e. they have achieved the unit of competency. As a developer, you need to have identified the work activity and what it involves, the complexity or level of sophistication of the work activity, so it can contribute to the alignment of the qualification to an AQF level, the knowledge and performance required to undertake the work activity, conditions under which the work activity may be conducted, evidence that's required to confirm that a person can competently undertake the work activity, any foundation skills required, and these will be included in the performance criteria wherever possible and not identified separately. Evidence that should be considered in assessing competency, evidence, of course, of both knowledge and performance. Any specific conditions under which assessment must be undertaken, and the resources to gather the evidence. The components of the unit of competency. One of the handouts, of course, relates to this, which is the TAC unit of competency template. This template for the units of competency must be used when submitting your application for course accreditation. Text in blue indicates what information needs to be included in the document, and blue text must be deleted from your final document. Units of competency must be written in a standard format and contain a number of essential components. This promotes national consistency, helping to ensure that units from a range of training packages and accredited courses can be easily understood by various users. It also enhances recognition of competencies and transferability and portability of qualifications. The components of a unit of competency are set out in the template, and blue text indicates which components are mandatory and which components are optional. On the screen, we've identified the 4 optional components and all the rest are mandatory. However, if you do include an optional field, remember that everything within that field is also mandatory. The template for the unit of competency is based on the template from the standards for training packages. There are instructions within the template which you must follow exactly. If you're re-accrediting a course, you must present your accredited course document and your units of competency using the latest templates, as these templates are reviewed and improved in an ongoing way. So a course accredited 3 to 5 years ago may not meet the requirements of the latest template instructions. In this webinar, we're not going through each of the components in a unit, as a different webinar has been developed that focuses on how to write units of competency. If you wish to develop skills to write your own units or the skills to determine whether someone else has written units that meet the standards, a recording of that webinar is available in the Recording and Resources section of the TAC website on the TAC Education Program page. Access and equity requirements. The units of competency must meet the needs of the diversity of potential learners and workplaces. Using the following approaches will assist this. Using plain language, no jargon, unclear language or terminology not relevant to the workplace, adaptability to a range of workplace contexts, inclusive language, ensure language is inclusive of the full diversity of your learners, reasonable adjustments. Limits to reasonable adjustment must be considered for learners with a defined disability and information added wherever relevant and practicable. Flexibility in assessment options, for example, allowing learners to demonstrate competency in a range of ways where this meets the needs of the learner and does not compromise attainment of the competencies. Providing a simulated workplace may provide equitable access for remote learners or unemployed learners, or asking oral questions instead of written may provide equitable access to learners with literacy needs. Culturally specific competencies, if applicable, for example, including Indigenous ways of working and Indigenous governance styles in the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander governance qualifications currently in the Business Services training package. Recognise diversity. Some communities and industries require their employees to have specific competence which recognise and address diversity and special needs of those they work with, such as competencies in working with diverse communities. So let's look at the course submission process. The handouts for this, of course, are your ACC1 application form, your accredited course document template. Now the time has come to prepare your actual accredited course document and to prepare your submission of the course to TAC. Keep in mind that the application and the accredited course document have different primary audiences. In ACC1, the application, you're talking to TAC. You're providing convincing justification of the need for the course, the evidence of the industry individuals or organisations supporting the accreditation, and evidence of the research to show that no duplication of other courses or units has occurred. In the accredited course document, you are speaking to the RTOs who deliver the course, and TAC will be checking that the content meets the standards for accredited courses. This means that comprehensive information on the need for the course and its vocational outcomes goes in the application, ACC1, or as an attachment there. And in section B, 3.1 of the accredited course document, you are asked to provide a concise summary of this. So RTOs have the purpose of the course and the context for its development, but not all the detail required by TAC to accredit the course. The Council will only accredit courses that meet the standards for accredited courses. Units of competency, of course, must meet the standards for training packages. Standards 4, 5, 6 and 7 are the relevant ones that relate to units of competency and their assessment. But as I said earlier, if you follow the rules in the blue text, you will automatically meet those particular standards. Applications for accreditation and reaccreditation must be submitted using the ACC1 application for course accreditation form available from the TAC website. Don't just update an old form. Applications for the accreditation or reaccreditation of VET courses can only be submitted by the course owners. Submission to TAC involves 3 main documents plus evidence. The first one, of course, is that ACC1 application. The second one, the accredited course document template. The third is units of competency using the required template if applicable. And then the evidence that you have to attach. This is listed on the application form, and this evidence includes copies of all imported units of competency from TGA that are contained in your course, evidence of consultation with stakeholders for the development or the review of the course. Don't forget about it in reaccreditation. Letters of support for the course from industry people, evidence of industry validation of the course, evidence of consultation with the Jobs and Skills Council, if applicable, evidence of consultation with the WA Training Council, if applicable. And it might not be applicable if these are community courses, for example, but for all industry courses, they will be applicable. Evidence of consultation with industry licensing or regulatory bodies, if applicable, and evidence of recognition of the course by professional bodies. There's a section in the accredited course document that asks you if the course is recognised. If you say yes, you must have evidence that those professional bodies have actually agreed that they are recognising the course by providing membership, for example. Okay, fees. It is crucial that the course is backed by enterprise, industry or community organisations to justify the effort and expense of having it accredited. When thinking about investing in an accredited course or the development of an accredited course, it's also important to know that a subsequent version of a training package may at some future date overtake the accredited course. There is therefore a limited window of opportunity for the applicant, that's you, to capitalise on your investment through ownership of the course and of any delivery and assessment materials that you might have developed for it. The application lodgement fee of $8,070 is non-refundable and is payable at the time of submitting your application. The application does not progress to review until the invoice is paid. And of course you can see the amendment cost up there on the screen. Where an amendment involves updates to imported units of training packages that have been identified as equivalent on training.gov, the amendment will be processed without an application fee. But any other amendments you make to your units will incur that particular fee. Right, the application goes in and now it's ready for assessment. TAC will review the accreditation submission against the AQTF 2021 standards for accredited courses and the requirements in the TAC templates. The ACC1 application form, the accredited course document, the unit of competency template and the qualification template, the optional one which we've given you a copy of, as well as supporting evidence attached. That optional document we've put together because people requested a qualification template which they could use instead of sending out the full accredited course document to RTOs who might want to deliver the course. And it replicates what's in the qualification outline on training.gov for training packages. If the accreditation reviewer determines that submission is compliant, it will be submitted at the next scheduled council meeting for consideration, and therefore timelines can vary depending on when you put it in against when the council meeting happens. If the application is considered non-compliant, course owner, you, are given 20 working days to prepare and submit additional evidence to address the non-compliances. Applications are then submitted to the council once they are compliant. Stage 5, when you're actually granted course accreditation. Course accreditation is usually granted for 5 years unless special circumstances warrant a lesser duration. And we have had some courses come in where the application says that they know that the training package developers are looking at this area but haven't started work on it yet. So for speed to market, they're putting in an application for accreditation, but they know well in advance that the training package is going to develop something in the same area. So TAC might decide that 3 years is sufficient rather than the full 5 years in that particular circumstance. The letter and certificate specifying the details of accreditation are provided to the copyright owner. The accredited course document and the developed units of competency will be watermarked and returned electronically. And the watermark will tell you when it was approved by TAC, the actual date and meeting. TAC allocates a new national code to the course, and the course is listed on the National Register. And that's the case for reaccredited courses as well as your initial new course. So it gets a new code when you reaccredit. An RTO will need to apply to have the course added to scope. This is not an automatic process for an RTO that's a course owner. So as a course owner, you get it accredited, but you still have to apply to then add it to your scope. Only RTOs are able to deliver nationally recognised training. Course owners who are not RTOs who wish to deliver their accredited course will need to register as an RTO to make alternative arrangements for delivery or make alternative arrangements for delivery with an existing RTO. The last stage, ongoing monitoring and evaluation. Your responsibility as a course owner includes ongoing monitoring and evaluation. The monitoring and evaluation process must have been identified during the design phase of your course and submitted and approved as part of your application. It's the last item in Section B of your accredited course document. This is required to keep the course current and relevant for the needs of industry. This is not an evaluation of delivery of the course, but its effectiveness in meeting the needs of the enterprise industry or community that it serves. So is it still meeting the vocational outcomes? Not students happy with how it goes and they enjoyed being on the course. This is about, is it still current and relevant? A need for change to the course might be identified through feedback from industry, employers, graduates, and students. And students often, once they get into the workplace, will actually tell you that there were gaps in what you provided because they needed different things once they actually got into the workplace. So that's useful feedback from students. A change might be identified through changes to workplace practices or new technology, regulatory, licensing or legislative changes, national policy relating to assessment and or delivery. TAC will send a survey to all course owners every second year to check the course owner's monitoring and evaluation process for their courses, and it's an opportunity at that point. Usually course owners make sure that they actually have just reviewed their course so that they can report to TAC whether any changes are needed. TAC must be informed of any proposed changes to the course, and if required, any relevant material must be provided to enable TAC to determine whether the course remains current and continues to comply with the standards throughout the period of accreditation. Changes require an amendment application to be submitted. Some changes are minor and do not affect the outcome. However, more significant changes that affect the outcome may actually require reaccreditation. An invoice for $22.90 will be issued for each accredited course on submission of an application for amendment, unless a reaccreditation is required, in which case the full fee of $8,070 will apply. Please note, said this earlier, where the amendment involves updates to imported units from training packages that are deemed equivalent, the amendment will be processed without an application fee. No fee will be charged where changes are required arising from changes in the standards for RTOs 2015 as well. The standards for accredited courses also require that if any RTOs have been licensed or franchised or have an agreement to deliver the course owner must advise them about any changes made to the course as a result of their course monitoring and evaluation. And we ask you to say this in your actual course document. Right, for further information, all the information that we talked about today can be found on the TAC website. From the homepage, you click on Course Accreditation, where you'll find further information on the stages of accreditation and reaccreditation, changes to accredited courses, submitting an application for course accreditation, the accreditation application forms, the accreditation application fees, and of course the full TAC education program that you might want to access. If there have been any questions, or if you think of any questions while we're just doing this closing part, please feel free to put them up on the chat, or you can of course send them into TAC if you think of something later. We recommend that you follow TAC on LinkedIn, YouTube, or sign up to TAC Talks or the TAC Update newsletter. And we encourage you to complete the feedback survey by following the link on the screen. We do encourage you to provide us with feedback because we are continuously improving our education program, and one way we do this is through your feedback. This is why we do our webinars for an hour or less. We appreciate you taking the time to complete the survey. Thank you for your participation today, and we encourage you to apply the information that you've heard today for your next course development process for accreditation. And I'll hand back to Mel now for closing.
Thank you, Cherry, for your presentation, and also to all those who participated today. A recording of this session and the handouts will be available on the TAC website and TAC's YouTube channel shortly. Once again, don't forget to complete the survey and have a lovely rest of your day.